Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Today we are discussing from Canto 8, Chapter 24, text number 5. But then we'll read through 1 to 9 first. Please listen to the translation. Okay. Maharaj Parikshit said, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Hari is eternally situated in his transcendental position, yet he descends to this material world and manifests himself in various incarnations. His first incarnation was that of a great fish. O most powerful Sukadev Goswami, I wish to hear from you the pastimes of that fish incarnation. What was the purpose for which the Supreme Personality of Godhead accepted the abominable form of fish? Exactly as an ordinary living being accepts different forms under the laws of karma. The form of a fish is certainly condemned and full of terrible pain. O my Lord, what was the purpose of the incarnation? Kindly explain this to us, for hearing about the pastimes of the Lord is auspicious for everyone. Sutta Goswami said, when Parikshit Maharaj thus inquired from the Sukadev Goswami, that most powerful saintly person began describing the pastimes of the Lord's incarnation as a fish. Sri Sukadev Goswami said, O king, for the sake of protecting the cows, brahmanas, gods, demigods, devotees, the Vedic literature, religious principles, and the principles to fulfill the purpose of life, the Supreme Personality of Godhead accepts the form of incarnations. Like the air passing through the different types of atmosphere, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, although appearing sometimes as a human being and sometimes as a lower animal, is always transcendental because he is above the material modes of nature. He is unaffected by higher or lower forms. O King Parikshit, at the end of the past millennium, at the end of Brahma's day, because Lord Brahma sleeps during the night, annihilation took place, and the three worlds are covered by the water of the ocean. At the end of Brahma's day, when Brahma felt sleepy and desired to lie down, the Vedas were emanating from his mouth, and the great demon named Hayagriva stole the Vedic knowledge. Understanding the acts of the great demon Hayagriva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Hari, who is full of all opulences, assumed the form of a fish and saved the Vedas by killing the demon. Okay, these are the translation of 9 texts. Today we are going to discuss on Canto 8, Chapter 24, Text 5. Okay, please repeat after me. Sri Sukha Vacha Gopi Prasura Sadhunam Chandasama Picheswaraha Raksha Micham Stanur Dhatte Dharmasyarthasya Chaivahi. Sri Sukha Uvacha Govi Prasura Sadhunam Chandasama Picheswara Raksha Micham Stanur Dharte Dharmasyarthasya Chaivahi. Prabhuji's Mataji. Prashura Sadhunam Andasame Pichesura Rakshamiham. Shuka Uvacha Bhuvi Prasura Sadhunam Andasamapi Cheshwaraha Rakshamicham Stanu Sate Dharma Syartha Sachaivahi. Word to word translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Sri Sukha Vacha. Sri Sukadev Goswami said, Go of the cows, Vipra of the Brahmanas, Sura of the demigods, Sadhunam and of the devotees, Chandasam api, even of the Vedic literature, Cha and Ishwara, the supreme controller, Raksham, the protection, Icchan, desiring, Tanu dhatte, accepts the form of incarnations, Dharmasya, of the principles of religion, Arthasya, of the principles of purpose of life, Cha, and Eva, indeed, he, certainly. Translation. Sri Shukadev Goswami said, O king, for the sake of protecting the cows, brahmanas, demigods, devotees, the Vedic literature, religious principles, and the principles to fulfill the purpose of life, the Supreme Personality of Godhead accepts the form of incarnations. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead generally appears in the various types of incarnations to give protections to the cows and the brahmanas. The Lord is described as Go Brahmana Hitayacha. In other words, he is always eager to benefit the cows and brahmanas. When Lord Krishna appeared, he purposefully became a cowherd boy and showed personally how to give protection to the cows and calves. Similarly, he showed respect to Sudama Vipra, a real Brahmana. From the Lord's personal activities, human society should learn how to give protection specially to the Brahmanas and cows. Then the protection of religious principles, fulfillment of the aim of the life and protection of the Vedic knowledge can be achieved. Without protection of the cows, Brahminical culture cannot be maintained. And without Brahminical culture, the aim of life cannot be fulfilled. The Lord, therefore, is described as Gaur Brahmanya Hitaya, because his incarnation is only for the protection of the cows and brahmanas. Unfortunately, because in Kali Yuga, there is no protection of the cows and Brahminical culture, everything is in precarious position. If human society wants to be exalted, the leaders of the society must follow the instruction of Bhagavad Gita and give protection to the cows and brahmanas and Brahminical culture. Translation once again. Sri Sukadev Goswami said, O king, for the sake of protecting the cows, brahmanas, demigods, devotees, the Vedic literature, religious principles, and the principles to fulfill the purpose of life, the Supreme Personality of Godhead accepts the form of incarnation. Hare Krishna. So, this is such a wonderful sloka. And of course, Srimad Bhagavatam is full of wonderful slokas. But this sloka is indicating us to understand God in full. Right? So, Krishna, he incarnates. So, he has like lots of incarnation. So, when we say avatar, that's in Sanskrit, avatar means to do avataran. To do avataran means like to come down from above to down, from above level to the below level. That's called avatar. So Krishna specially takes the avatar for the purpose of protecting the cows and brahmanas. That's very much stressed in this sloka and in the purport of Srila Prabhupada, right? Because the whole basis of Vedic system is based on these two entities. The first, the cows, right? Cows, they are helping us to make the nature, perfect. I was watching one documentary made by one person. I think it was in America. He had an idea to go and live in the farm, He was living in the city and he was a pretty rich person. And he was when he get older, he was fed up of the city life and he wanted to go and live in the farm. So he bought a big land, big land. And what he loved in that land was the grass. It was a green grass, full of filled full of green grass. But then one day he realized there were cows coming from the neighbor to graze in his field, So he thought this is such a disturbance. Cows would come and then they will pass the cow dungs and then thinking that, the field is destroyed. The grass field is destroyed by the cows. He told his neighbor from where the cows are coming, don't send your cows. I don't like them. So he was telling, when the cows stopped coming, the weeds started coming up in the grassland. So he had people helping him to take out the weeds, So he said at one point he had up to 20 people helping him to take the weeds out. And the next year, the amount of weed which was growing in the field doubled. Right? So it started becoming quite impossible to stop that weed from growing. So then he started having lots of experts coming to the field, and then to find out what is the reason the weeds are coming. So he had lots of chemicals he tried, so many things he tried, but then cutting that story short, he found out when the cows are coming, the grasses are perfectly fine. Not only that, when he tasted the soil, he had lots of scientists coming later on visit his field because he really wanted the grass to grow in a very best level, So when he brought the scientists and then found out grass, the cows are not only helping the weeds to, not to come, but then he found out that the soil is also absorbing the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Right? So then he realized that the cows are very, very helpful to the nature. Right? That was his conclusion. Accidentally found that cows are really, really nice. Now, we were just traveling a few months back to New Zealand. And New Zealand is one of the country which has the cow population which is double the population of the people. Right? And then we were traveling along the way, and then all the field on the side of the roads, it was small hills. All the small hills were really, really green. Really, really green and very, very nice, beautiful, very well organized, and then looks beautiful. Then I asked, then I asked, how is it possible that these hills looks really beautiful, green and neat and tidy? And they said, because we have cows. The cows are grazing all the time. All the time, they are let free, and then the cows goes to different places and they graze. And then the field looks really beautiful, and that also it was winter. So in winter supposed to be dry, In the winter also the field looks really, really green. So now, of course, this is some superficial reason for why we should have cows. But then when we go deeper, the cows are very important. So next thing Prabhupada is stressing here is the Brahminical culture. Now what is Brahminical culture? Now Brahminical culture is the one which is telling us what is the ultimate aim of life. Now in Vedanta Sutra, which is the conclusion of all the Vedas, the first sloka is Atato Brahma Jigyasa. It means you have taken the form of human being. Your ultimate duty is to find out what is absolute truth. Right? And that is the reason why Krishna gave us like so much of intelligence. Right? Lots of scientists believe that we come from monkey. Right? We came from monkey. Right? So, and one of the closest one, which is to the human, is orangutan. Now they have tried to teach orangutans so many things which we do, like alphabets, language, and everything. But then these orangutans, they cannot do so much, you know. They cannot learn these languages and alphabets. They cannot do like lots of logical reasonings. You know, the only thing the orangutans can do is live by the instinct, you know, just for the survival. All those languages they use for the survival. You know, that's all they can do. So why even though we come from the monkey, you know, the question, even like, okay, let's accept that we came from monkey, even then, why there is so much difference between a human being and the monkey, right, in terms of intelligence? Then human being, thinking that we are so intelligent, we started making mobile phones, internet, you know, like making our house so much sophisticated, right? Even in the scorching heat of Dallas, Texas, we have like air conditions, right? The whole house is like temperature controlled, you know. Then we think that, that's why we are so much intelligent. But then Krishna is saying, no. According to the Brahminical culture, our main objective of having so much intelligence is to find out what is the absolute truth. Right? Now, what is the absolute truth? Absolute means the ultimate. Ultimate. Like, for example, of having the idea of ultimate is, I have parents, right? I've got father and mother who gave me birth, and then I came to this world. So in the same way, my parents, they have their parents. In the same way, my parents' parents, they have their parents. So in this way, if we go, who is the first one who gave birth to like the lineage which I am born into, then we will reach to the person who is the ultimate. Right? And then Srila Prabhupada would say that ultimate person is Krishna. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Aham bija pradakpita. I am the seed-giving father of all the living entities. So our human brain, human intelligence is given because we can find what is the absolute truth. Right? That if we don't do that, then our life is useless. So Devahuti also like repeats this sloka in Srimad Bhagavatam, confirming to the Kapil Dev that if we do not find the absolute truth, you know, and if we do not use our life in bhakti to find out ultimately the God, then our life is useless, and we are like just like a dead body walking. No, this is what the conclusion of Devahuti after listening to Kapil Dev, right? So, and then how the Brahminical culture and cows are related, because the cow's milk, it is designed to develop the brain tissue in our brain. Now, we have like lots of study going on in modern psychology also about the brain and how it functions, you know, like, and how it becomes like more, we become more brainy, more intelligent person, right? And then Prabhupada would many times stress that we have to drink cow milk, the pure cow milk, the cow breeds. Almost there are about like 400 different breeds of the cows. And the original breeds, if you drink that cow milk, what you are going to develop is the brain tissue in the brain, in the head. Now, when we have enough brain tissue, then we can understand and think about the absolute truth. But these days, the milk which we are drinking mostly comes from the buffaloes. Now, buffalo's milk is different than the cow's milk. Buffalo's milk have lots of like nutrition and fats which is designed for the body. Now, body gets nourished with the buffalo milk. But with the cow milk, the brain gets like nourished. right? So that's why to study the Vedas, understand the like details of these like Vedas, Shastras, and to understand the absolute truth, we need cows, the cow's milk, right? But then everything is commercialized in today's world. Even the cow's milk, it's contaminated. How it's contaminated? Because we are getting like different breeds of the cows, the new breeds. The cows breeds like, I mean, they have done some engineering, what they call genetical engineering, GMOs, genetically modified organisms. So they modified the cow's DNA and then made such that they give more milk. From this generation, this era of human being, we are more focused on quantity than in quality. So the cow's milk is qualitative. That's why cow gives like very less milk. And even if we drink half a glass or 1 glass every day, our brain tissue gets developed. But then people are like greedy. Now we want like more quantity. We want to drink like 2, 3, 4, 5 glasses every day. And then that cow's milk, which is like provided in a small quantity, which was just enough, doesn't become enough, right? So we designed the cow to give more milk, destroying the quality of the cow's milk, right? So anyway, so we need to understand the details which is given in the Shastra. If we understand the details given in the Shastra, then we can achieve first the liberation, mukti, and then we can understand what is devotional service to the Lord and achieve that devotional service accordingly, right? There are like so many things to understand about God. First thing is whether God exists or not, right? And then second thing is who is God. It's very important for us to understand because the second sloka of the Vedanta Sutra suggests that Janmadasyata means everything emanates from God. First, there is God, the absolute truth, and then everything emanates from God. That's what the second indication is given. One time I was like, I studied in Thailand, and in my university there were like students from all over the world. And I had one American friend, his name was Fred. So I was like talking to him one day, and then I was like holding the dollar note, the US dollar, and I was like reading, "Hey Fred, I found something on the note." And he said, "What is that?" I said, "It's written, 'In God we trust.'" Yeah, it's written in the dollar note, right? If you see, it's "In God we trust." So I showed him, "Hey Fred, in God we trust. It's written here." And he says, "Yeah, man. We trust God. We believe that there is God." Then I said, "Oh, really? Even the country like America believes that there is God?" Yeah, we believe in God." Then I asked him, "Who is God?" Then he said, "Well, I don't know." He said, "I don't know." Right? Then I asked him, "How can you trust somebody whom you don't know?" In God we trust. Yeah, we have this concept of God, but then we don't know who exactly he or she or it. It can be person, human being. It can be like energy or what. We don't have that finding. That's why Prabhupada is stressing so much. First, understand that the God exists. Then second, understand who exactly is God. And third, we need to build our relationship with God. Right? So this is the purpose of life. In this sloka also, like it is written, the principle to fulfill the purpose of life also has to be preserved. That's why this incarnation of fish comes, and then at any moment, God is trying to protect the dharma. Right? In Bhagavad Gita also it is mentioned that each millennium, God would incarnate to protect the dharma. Because that dharma is the thing which is making us like perfect, making us like get the ultimate aim of life. Right? So Krishna talks about like incarnation. Now, incarnation, avatar means God exists in the spiritual realm, and then he comes down to this earth time and again to remind the living entity that this is not the original place. This is not our home. Wake up, jeev jago. Wake up, sleeping soul. You have to go back. You have to come back to my spiritual world. Now once Narad Muni was visiting Lord Vishnu in Vaikunthas, right? And then he would go there, and then, and he just visited this earth, and then he went back to the Lord Vishnu, and then he was expressing, hey Vishnu, I just came from the Martyalok, this earthly planet, and I saw people are suffering. People are suffering, And here in Vaikuntha, there is no suffering. Everything is so peaceful, everything is so nice. Why don't you call all these living entities back to Vaikuntha? Why don't you bring them back? Then Lord Vishnu says, well, I really want all the living entities to come back to my Vaikuntha, but then they don't want to come. Right? They don't want to come. Then Narad Muni said, how is it possible? How is it possible that these living entities who are searching for happiness and peace wouldn't like to come back to your place, Vaikuntha? Then Vishnu said, okay, I've tried a lot, but then why don't you try yourself? So Narad Muni says, okay, very fine, I will try. So he came down to this earth again, and he chose one house, and that house was Santosha's house, So he went into the house and then met Santosh. And then as soon as Santosh, he saw Narad Muni, he knew, oh, Narad Muni, oh, you're so welcome to my house. By you coming in my house, now my house is becoming pure. Thank you very much. Okay, that's fine. I have come here to take you back to Vaikuntha. Let's go to Vaikuntha. He said, okay, give me 10 minutes. I'll pack my suitcase, And he said, no. You cannot take suitcase. What to talk about suitcase? Even you cannot take your own body. So you have to give up your body. As soon as he heard that you have to give up your body, then Santosh says, come on, man. I've just become a grandfather. I've got a grandson. No? And then that grandson is so cute. Right? I want to spend some time with my grandson. So can you please come after 10 years? I'll be ready. Then Narad Muni said, okay, good affection towards grandson. Now let me come after 10 years. So Narad Muni went and then came after 10 years. And he found that the Santosh was gone. He died. So with his mystic power, he was searching where the Santosh went, and then found out he became a dog in his next life. And then because of his attachment to his son, the dog came to the same house. He reached the same house. Then Narad Muni said, hey, Santosh, you have become a dog. And he's going, woof, woof, woof. So what? I became dog. I'm still in the house of my son. Oh, Santosh, you have become dog now. Let's go back to, Vaikuntha. Let's go to Vaikuntha. Vishnu is waiting for you. And he said, come on, my son and daughter-in-law, they're working so hard. They have earned so much of wealth. And each time they go to office, I have to take care of the house. If I'm not there, then the thieves and rogues will come and loot them. You come after 5 years, I'll go with you. So Narad Muni says, okay, fine, I'll come after 5 years. So when he came after 5 years, the dog Santosh also died. He was gone. Then with his mystic power, he saw that the dog Santosh has become now the snake Santosh. And then somehow, because of the attachment to the son, the snake was also, roaming around the same house. Then Narad Muni said, hey, Santosh, you have become snake. And this time the snake goes, pa, 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 pa. No, he cannot even speak. Right? He cannot even speak. And I said, so what? I'm still in the house of my son. So please, it's okay. Then Narad Muni thought this is too much now. This is too much. The attachment has gone too much. So what he did, he took the form of a human being and started shouting, hey, snake, snake. And then indicating Santosh, hey, Santosh, this snake will bite your son, right? And kill it. Please come and kill the snake. And the son with a stick came and started hitting the snake, right? And then when the son was hitting, the snake would go, hey, son, I'm your father, Santosh. And then son, thinking that, oh, this snake is going to bite me, started hitting him even harder, Then he realized, this person is not my son anymore. When he got bitten, by the sun, then he realized this sun doesn't belong to me anymore. Then he said, okay, Narad Muni, I'm ready to go. So, are we also waiting for the same? To be beaten by our own near and dears, so that we will be forced to believe in God, So like that, the Vaikuntha plan is, the spiritual world is such a beautiful place. That's our home. Actually, we came from there. That's why Srila Prabhupada would say, going back to Godhead. Right? Going back. We were there. And going back to Godhead means we're supposed to go back and then be there with Krishna, with Narayan, with Vishnu, and then to enjoy this like spiritual bliss up there. But then we don't believe that. Right? We don't believe that. So then, Krishna, he gives, he created us, and then he allows us to wander wherever we want. He gives us like the freedom. Right? He gives us the freedom. And this minute freedom, we misuse it. And then we have come to this world. This world is the external energy of the Lord, right? Which is surcharged with the forgetfulness of Krishna. So we came to this world and then we forgot Krishna. And we think that that's okay. That's okay. Right? But then, no. Krishna says, no, this is not the original place of yours. You should come back. That's why Krishna, he cannot force us to go back to Godhead. Like in the story of Narad Muni, like even Narad Muni knows that Vaikuntha is better than, like this place. Nobody can force us to go back. And this is Krishna's style. He will not force. Because if he forces us, can you imagine? He puts gun on our head and said, will you come back to Vaikuntha or not? Then it's a very unpleasant like situation. So what Krishna does is, he uses like advertisements. He advertises. Now all these advertisements are the scriptures. One of the form of advertisement is the scripture. When we read the scripture, we get the information about the spiritual world. And then when we get the information about the spiritual world, Krishna is thinking, maybe we will have the thinking, we'll have the concept of going back to Godhead. And not only that, like he sometimes will send his devotees, like Narad Muni, to us. Advertising, hey guys, you're suffering too much in this world. Come back to my spiritual world. This is what Krishna is, doing that. And when we read all these like scriptures, we understand. We understand that actually we're supposed to go back to Krishna. We go back to the spiritual world. That is our home. Right? So, giving my example, my own example, I am also like born in a Hindu family in Nepal. Right? In Nepal, we still have like 82% of Hindus. But then I would say Hindu, no Bindu, Even though we are Hindu, like, we don't know anything about God. Right? The first thing is, our parents, our grandparents, they are never educated in the scriptures. Now, we know Hindu just because of the tradition. Some tradition, like especially, I understood later on, coming to Krishna consciousness, that most of the thing we follow is karma kanda. Now, karma kanda is the first step of dharma, which allows us to use God, use the principle of religion for the benefit, for the material benefit of our own life. Right? That is the only thing we know. And that also we know very partially. Right? And we never read like Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam, any scripture. And then our parents like always like encouraged us to study some modern books, to become engineer, doctor, businessman, charter accountant. These things are like focus. So I also chose to become an engineer, So I studied computer engineering. So as I studied science, I was discouraged to believe in God. Because science would say that religion is a dogma. It's superstition. It's a metaphysics which has never been proved, never been researched. It's a kind of like a belief of certain group of people. Right? And then there were like lots of like indications, lots of like chapters, studies, which is designed for us not to believe in God. I would say it's a propaganda. It's a propaganda, which is used to make the society godless so that we can be exploited. I can tell it like very nicely, because up to 30 years, all I knew was there's no God. Then all of a sudden, I met a devotee. And that devotee was white man, I would see lots of like sadhus who were like originated in India and Nepal, and I would not believe them. I would think that, oh, these people are like lazy people, they don't want to work, that's why they became religious, and then they are begging around and then walking around, wandering around, and then just like wasting their life. I used to think that. But then I met a white man, sadhu, very young, energetic, white man sadhu, right? Then I started like having, like doubts. What is this white man doing? Becoming a monk, wearing saffron, having sikha, tilak, and young. Because, I was shocked because, whole my life I was following the white people, the Western culture. I'm eating the food they eat. I stopped eating rice and dal and sabji and started eating pizza, burger, bread. I started speaking the language they speak, English. Not giving importance to the language which is coming from my language, which is coming from Sanskrit. Right? I started wearing the uniform clothes. They are wearing like jeans and t-shirts, not wearing this like traditional like spiritual cloth. Right? And now here comes a white man becoming a sadhu. So first thought I had was, this guy has gone crazy. He's a mad guy. He has not understood life. I was thinking like that. But then also another thought came in my head, that what this white man knows, which I don't know. Because I have never thought of becoming a sadhu. What's so important? What's so benefit like becoming a sadhu? I was thinking like that. So I started talking to him, and then he started talking to me about like Bhagavad Gita and the benefit of reading it. So after meeting him, I started reading Bhagavad Gita. And then I found like the spiritual science. Of course, the chapter 1 was boring. I didn't understand much. But then when I started like reading chapter 2, each and every sloka was resonating with me. All those questions I had were getting answered. Like why we suffer, why we become happy, why we suffer, what are all those like anarthas, lust, anger, greed, attachment, madness, envy, what are these? Why we come to this world, what is the purpose of life? All these things, like it was explained in chapter 2. Then I thought like, wow, what a knowledge. And the first book I finished reading from Srila Prabhupada is Life Comes from Life, which was the conversation of Srila Prabhupada with the scientist, Dr. T.D. Singh, later became Bhakti Swarup Damodar Maharaj. Right? So when I was reading that, and Prabhupada would give lots of like scientific-based logics to explain like this spiritual knowledge. So when I read that book, I said, wow, this is knowledge. Everything makes sense. Everything makes very scientifically. Then I started like reading Srimad Bhagavatam. Then I found, oh my God, this is full of like science. They are talking about embryology, organ transplant, cloning, test tube babies. So many things, which we thought that the modern science knows like better. Then I found like so many things which is better in spiritual science. Even the Vedic cosmology, the universal structure, like defeats. It's far more better detailed than the solar system we have in today's world, So all these things, like it became like really, really interesting to me. Then I thought like, let me give it a try. Then again, the thought came, why only ISKCON? There are so many other organizations. Right? If I want to practice spirituality, I should find out the best one. So then after getting like a little bit educated in ISKCON, finding what it focuses like is Bhakti Yoga, then I went to Brahma Kumari. Right? Brahma Kumari, this Sadasiv thing. So I took the course there and found out like they are interested in this Brahma Jyoti thing. Liberation. They are interested in liberation. Then I went to Osho. I was a big fan of Rajneesh because he would always talk radical, which is against the society, and then so many information about that. Right? So I went to Oslo and then found out, like, all they want to do is enjoy. Right? And then went to Sai Baba, and then found out they are like after mysticism, perfection, siddhis, blessings, focused on that. Right? And then, of course, I wanted to go to the mosque, masjid, find out like what Islam is about. I wanted to read Quran, but then that time I was not given that Quran from the Muslims who were like living in Nepal. Right? But then I met one Mullah, very, very decent person. And he explained to me what is Allah, what is the concept of Islam and everything. And then I read Bible also, thinking that let me try Christianity. Right? And then when I did all this thing, it took almost like 6 years, and then I found the Sanatan Dharma, which we call in the modern days Hindu Dharma. That's the most complete. Right? Because the Bible talks about heaven and hell. That's the maximum it talks about. Right? And then it talks about the Lord, which is living in heaven. And later on, when I read Srimad Bhagavatam, the same Lord, which is described in Bible, they're talking about Indra. Because in Holy Bible, in one place, it's mentioned. Sometimes God envies us. I said, like, what kind of God is this who envies the living entity? And then found out Indra many times would envy the living entity. When Gautama Muni, he married Ahilya, who is more like beautiful than the Apsara, Indra came down to this earth and then wanted to enjoy this Ahilya. Right? It makes sense. Then Islam goes a little further. It talks about heaven, hell, and it talks about Brahmalok. Because Allah is described exactly like Brahma. He's the creator, Srishtikarta. Right? And then he created this world and then he wanted to rest, and he created his loka 7 layers above us. The Allah. And Allah is Nirakar. Cannot be seen by the eyes. Cannot be perceived by the 5 senses. It's true. Because Brahma's body is made up of intelligence. And intelligence cannot be perceived by the 5 senses. Right? And then I read Tripitak. Tripitak is the book for Buddhism. Mahayana, Theravada. They have 2 streams. Right? And then this Buddhism talks about heaven and hell. It talks about Brahmaloka. And it also talks about Brahmajyoti, the spiritual sky. And then going to spiritual sky and then stay there for a long time is called Nirvana. Nirvana means liberation. Right? And then coming back to this Sanatan Dharma talks about heaven and hell. It also talks about, Brahmaloka. It also talks about Brahmajyoti. And then finally it talks about Vaikuntha Loka. Right? And Vaikuntha Loka is not mentioned in any other scriptures. And coming to ISKCON, ISKCON focuses on Goloka Vrindavan. Now, many of the Hindu scriptures, they don't talk about Goloka Vrindavan. And Goloka Vrindavan is only achieved by Bhakti Yoga. So understanding this hierarchy, understanding this the whole complete picture of the existence, I became attracted to ISKCON. And Srila Prabhupada would explain everything in the language I understand. That's the beauty of Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada also concluded the cream of all the knowledge. All the knowledge. I was told that we should read Prabhupada's book first. Then we can read our Acharya's books. I thought Prabhupada books are the basis, foundations, like ABC. And the Acharya's books is something PhD. I was thinking like that. But then later on I realized, no, it's the other way around. Prabhupada books are like the PhDs. Why? Prabhupada would only pinpoint the highest form of knowledge. Prabhupada is telling us to go back to Goloka and nowhere else. Not even in Vaikuntha. Prabhupada would not encourage us to go to Vaikuntha. Why? Because going to Vaikuntha is mukti, liberation. Right? Vaikuntha comprises of Vaikuntha planets starting from Narayan Loka, right, up to Dwarka and Mathura. Even Dwarka and Mathura are situated in Vaikuntha planets, where the leaders are looking like Krishna, but then they are Vasudeva. They are Aniruddha, Shankarshan, Pradyumna. Right? And then I was always like mentioning these days, like I just recently revised this Brihad Bhagavatamrit. In Brihad Bhagavatamrit, Uttara and Parikshit Maharaj, they are talking. Right? Uttara and Parikshit Maharaj are talking. And Uttara in one place, and in the second part, she asks the question. Right? Hey Parikshit, you have met Krishna in your womb. You are a pure devotee. I've got a question. Krishna has lots of devotees. Exalted devotees like Pandavas, Udavas, and so on. But then I'm confused. There are also a category of devotees called gopis. Right? And these gopis are like so dear to Krishna, and they also love Krishna intensely. Right? Do all these like gopi, Pandavas and Udava, Yadavas, will they go to the same planet? Are their destination are the same? Because if the destination for all these like devotees are same, then it's unfair to the gopis. So I want to know where they go. I mean, after all these like leelas, where they go back. Is it the same place or is it a different place? Then Sanatana Goswami talks about the 4.5 devotees there. Right? 4.5 devotees. Right? The first devotee he talks about is the Jnana Bhakta, means Mishra Bhakta. Half devotee. Right? Jnana Bhakta. And Jnana Bhakta's example is given by? Right? Given by? Yeah. And I was shocked. I mean, when I heard like, the Jnana Bhakta is Bharat Maharaj. Right? We in Canto 5, we read about him, and then Bharat Maharaj is Mishra Bhakti. He had knowledge, full knowledge about Krishna. That's why he renounced his like country and then family and everything, and he became like sadhu, practicing Krishna consciousness. But then when the baby deer came, he forgot Krishna. So that means his bhakti was knowledge deep only. Like knowledge deep. He didn't have affection. That's why he had to take the incarnation of deer. The next life of deer. Right? Then he realized in the deer body that, what mistake have I done? Then in the next life he became Jadavarat and then practiced Shuddha Bhakti. Right? Then he says, Sanatana Goswami says, better than Jnana Bhakta is Shuddha Bhakta, pure devotion, who is practicing pure devotion. And the example is given of Ambarish Maharaj. Now Ambarish Maharaj is the one who practiced 9 Narbada Bhakti, the 9 different types of Bhakti, all of them. Right? So when devotee, follows all these 9 different types of devotion, he's called Shuddha Bhakta. Right? He's a complete Bhakta, full Bhakta. That's why he says 4.5. The other, the 4 is like full devotee, and the first one, the Jnana Bhakta, is the half devotee. Right? And he says, better than Shuddha Bhakti is Prema Bhakti. Now Bhakti, which is surcharged with love. And in love, you always want to serve God. Right? That is Prema Bhakti. And the example of Prema Bhakta, Sanatana Goswami gives is Hanuman. Hanuman is always ready to serve God. All the time. In the servitude like attitude, So then he says, better than Prema Bhakta is Prema Parabhakta, who is not only serving God, but who always wants to be by the side of the God. Samipya. Right? Who is always wanting to stay next to God, and then they will serve the God. And the example of that is given as Pandavas. Pandavas always had the opportunity to serve God and be by the side of God. Each time they would remember God, Krishna would appear. And better than Prema Parabhakta is Prematura Bhakta. That is the highest he talks about. Now, who is the example of Prematura Bhakta? Means like intense love of God. They cannot live even a second without Krishna. Whom do you think? Gopis, right? I thought also gopis. But then he says, no. It's Uddhava and Yadavas. Uddhava had intense love for Krishna. Right? So then Uttara says, that means gopis are better than Uddhavas? Prema Parabhakta? Right? And then he talks about rati. The intense rati means like absolute love for Krishna. And that's only gopis. Now, these 4.5 devotees I found, they go back to Vaikuntha. They don't go to Goloka Vrindavan. So then Parikshit Maharaj explains, Goloka Vrindavan is a separate place than the Vaikuntha planets, where all these like exalted devotees even cannot like achieve. Only the gopis, only the Nanda Maharaj, only the, Yashoda Mai, they will achieve this planet. Right? So when I was reading this, when I was understanding this, I was so discouraged. Right? Even I'm not even like a percentage of what this Bharat Maharaj is. I'm not even like 0.00001% of what he is. And then here it's explained that these personalities, even to the Uddhava and Yadavas, they don't go back to Goloka Vrindavan. They achieve Vaikuntha. Because Vaikuntha is achieved by mukti. 4 types of mukti. Samipya, Sarupya, Salokya and Sasti. Right? And Sayujya mukti is the liberation which we achieve going to spiritual sky. Nirvana, that's a Buddhism thing. Right? So these 4 muktis means even Pandavas, they got mukti. Right? Now, what is the proof? One of the proof is Bhagavad Gita. Right? In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is speaking to Arjun. Right? Now, which Krishna is speaking to Arjun? Right? If we check, we find out it's Vasudev talking to Arjun. It's not the original Krishna. Original Krishna is Shyam Sundar. And Shyam Sundar said that, promised gopis that he will never come out of Vaikuntha Goloka Vrindavan. He will never leave Goloka Vrindavan. So all those Krishna which we see incarnating on this earth is not the original Krishna. They are the expanded Krishna. They are Dwarkadish. They are Mathuradish. Right? Mathuradish and Dwarkadish are nobody else than Vasudev. Right? That's why Vasudev talking to Krishna, and he says at the end, the highest, the best sloka, the essence of Bhagavad Gita, Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mamekam Saranam Braja. He's telling Arjun, Krishna is telling Arjun, hey Arjun, you surrender unto me, the Vasudev Krishna, and what I will provide you? Aham tam sarva papebhyo mokshaishyami masucha. I'll provide you liberation. Because Vasudev cannot give you bhakti. Right? Vasudev will give you Vaikuntha. So it's true. No? The Vasudev Krishna is saying, I'm going to give you liberation, mukti. And by that mukti you can go to Goloka Vrindavan. So Srila Prabhupada is not interested in that. Srila Prabhupada doesn't have any desire for his followers to go to Vaikuntha planets. He wants us to go to Goloka Vrindavan. By reading all these scriptures, I was like completely discouraged that I would not be able to go to Goloka Vrindavan. Now if you read Madhurya Kadambini, that's also another book which talks about the complications of becoming a so pure devotee that you can go back to Goloka Vrindavan. Right? But each time we read these books, such a discouragement. Right? And then in that discouragement, Srila Prabhupada comes. And he says that I know the back door. I know the back door to Goloka Vrindavan. And what is that back door? What is that back door? That back door is Navadvip. There is Navadvip in Goloka Vrindavan. One corner of Goloka Vrindavan is Navadvip. And in Navadvip, who stays? Who lives? Gaur Nitai. Gauranga Mahaprabhu and Chaitanya Nityananda Prabhu. These are the personalities, great personalities who reside in Navadvip, in Goloka Vrindavan. And they incarnated about 500 years back in this world. Incarnated. Incarnation means coming from there down to earth. So they are the original form from Navadvip. They have come to this world and they said, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, out of mercy, he said that if you chant holy name, if you chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, I'll give you Krishna Prem. I'll take you back to Goloka Vrindavan. So if we convince, if we get the mercy of like Gaur Nitai, we'll be taken to Navadvip in Goloka Vrindavan. And by the way, from in Navadvip in Goloka Vrindavan to go to Radha and Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan, it takes 15 minutes walking. It's a very near distance. It's not so far. That's the back door which Srila Prabhupada has introduced. Right? But then, we don't understand that. And we are mostly focusing on Radha and Krishna. Right? And scripture says that we really, really have to be qualified to become, to be next to Radha and Krishna. It's very difficult. First of all, Radharani will never allow anybody who has even tinge of disqualification to be present in front of Krishna. Right? Can you imagine, we offer food, right, to Krishna, thinking that that's devotional service. Right? And then we offer and then we eat that as prasad. Now, Radharani is not going to accept the food we offer to Krishna because it doesn't have that quality. Once in 2020, right? Big Gaur Nitai. Now everyone comes, they will see Gaur Nitai. And you know what happened? The preaching boomed in Nepal. As soon as we had Gaur Nitai, the preaching boomed. Now we have tens of thousands of youth coming to temple. Not only in that temple, all over the temple. We have 64 centers. All the temple is flooded with people. Right? Before, when we were talking about Radha and Krishna, no people were coming. We had to beg people to come for Janmashtami. Now even Sunday programs is flooded with people. We have to say, hey, don't come, we cannot handle you. Just because we have highlighted Gaur Nitai. This is the era of Gaur Nitai. That's what Srila Prabhupada wants to highlight in ISKCON, Gaur Nitai. Because Gaur Nitai is the only solution, right, to achieve Radha and Krishna, right, which is our goal. Okay, so to understand all these things, Krishna has given us such a wonderful scriptures, and is trying to explain from each and every angle that how we can understand God, how we can achieve Him. Right? Basically, we all belong to Krishna. We came from Krishna, and it's very obvious for us to go back to Krishna. Krishna is trying to pull all his energy back. That's all. Right? We are non-different from Krishna. Right? And just to realize that, it's so difficult. But then Srila Prabhupada makes it very simple. Right? And then coming back to the conclusion, we need to drink lots of cow milk so that we can understand Krishna is the main objective in our life, and then somehow become the devotee and go back to Godhead. Okay, thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Thank you. So do you have any question or comment? I think I've gone beyond time. Okay, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank
you. Have you ever read in the Nectar of Instruction?
Yes.
I remember in one purport, Prabhupada says something about how devotional service is so perfect that Krishna will, once it's begun, Krishna will force the devotee to come back to Godhead.
That's true.
But a lot of times we say Krishna never forces, like you were saying that, Lord Narayan's got the whole Vaikuntha, but people want to stay in the material world.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't force them. So what does it mean in that one purport where Prabhupada says that Krishna forces?
Yeah, I guess it's in somewhere 6-7 text, right? 6-7 text. Yeah. Once we come into devotion, once we start our devotional life, Krishna takes us very seriously, right? Our acharyas explains explains devotion in 3 levels: Kanishta, Madhyama, and Uttama. Now, Kanishta is also explained by Bhaktivinoda Thakur in Madhura Kadambini, that it's Anishtita Bhakti, right? It's it's a fluctuating Bhakti, and he gives 6 symptoms, Utsamayi, and then Ghanatarala, and we are certain, uncertain all the time. So till the time of Kanishta level, Krishna is not interested in us. So who acts on us while we are in Kanishta level is Mayadevi. Mayadevi checks whether we are really serious in Krishna conscious or not, right? But When we reach the level of madhyama, right, then the bhakti becomes nisthita bhakti. Means now nistha and ruchi, these are the two stages in madhyama. And in uttama, ashakti, bhav and prem, in these 5 levels, it is confirmed that a devotee really wants to go back to Krishna. In these stages, Krishna forces by using yogamaya, and later on himself would come and then encourage devotee to go back to him. Maybe this is what Srila Prabhupada wants to focus there. Right? Because nectar of devotion, nectar of instruction is like it's running really fast, and within 12 slokas, like it covers like everything. 11 slokas, like covers like everything from Kanishta, Madhyama to Uttama. Okay? Okay? Thank you very much. Okay? Anything else?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much for your beautiful exposition. I'm trying to see if you could express among all the explorations that you did in different faiths, if there is one that, in your opinion, could maybe come close to this movement of Krishna consciousness.
For me?
Yes.
Yeah, meeting the devotee, this white man. Yeah, that was the cause. I mean, if I check my previous life and the way I was living in this life before Krishna consciousness, I don't think I have anything from my past. I had nothing from my past. Right? As we read, it is said that bhakti continues life after life, right? So in my case, it was not like that. In my case, I met the devotee, somehow, and then by his mercy, by their mercy only, I became devotee.
Thank you so much for that. I wanted to see, maybe I didn't ask you clearly. No, I wanted to see if all the faiths that you study, like the religions, the Islams, this and that, did you find anything similar or close to Krishna?
Most of the things are similar, right? For example, in Bible, the Adam and Eve, concept, according to Christianity, by Adam and Eve, there's also like Adam and Eve in Srimad Bhagavatam. The first time from Brahma's body, the male and female, the Manus, Manu and his wife comes, that's Adam and Eve. And the similarity is like the apple, the snake and the apple. Then don't eat the apple, and then apple eats, and then they have intercourse, and then there's reproduction. The same thing. Swayambhuva Manu doesn't want to get married. Then from within Brahma, there's a voice, create ignorance, induced in him, and then he will get married. So when Brahma induced ignorance in Swayambhuva Manu, then he got married and had 5 children. Right? Very, very similar. We similar concepts. And I don't know, we don't have the full proof, but then, many one place I found that Jesus and his father went to Kashmir and got educated. Right? And then also we were told that they became Brahmin. So as they were coming back, and then in the Middle East, they were asked, who are you? And they said, I'm a Brahmin. And in the people who speak Arabic, when they say Brahman, they say Abram. So there are lots of connections like that. And a very simple, common sense question we can ask is, what was there before Christianity, Buddhism, or Islam, which are 2,500 years old? What was there before that? Right? Yeah. So, and then recently they found one temple in Bali. Right? And then also in China. China, they didn't highlight, but in Bali they highlighted. They found the temple of Lord Shiva and Ganesh. And when they did the carbon dating, it was something like 25,000 years old. Right? So things are going on. Whatever it's mentioned in the scriptures are makes sense. right? But then we are stupid, like we connect ourselves to a religion and then we start like fighting with each other, thinking that they are different. No, no, no. God is one. Your God, my God is one, same. And if your God created you, the same God created me as well. I don't know why, people see difference by killing each other, thinking that my God will be happy by killing another brother or sister of mine, Right? So, and at the same time, when I read Srila Prabhupada is also talking about integration, not differences. So, he is one of the first Hindu sadhus who is like accepting Jesus, Muhammad. I was surprised. None of the other Hindu sadhus would do that. They would say, nah, only born Hindu and these and that, like very, very fanatic concepts are there. But then Srila Prabhupada had a broad idea. What to talk about Srila Prabhupada, even when we read Chaitanya Bhagavat, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said, you can take the name of your God. He talks that. It's not necessarily Hare Krishna Mahamantra. He's talking about whoever you have accepted God, take the name of that personality. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is that broad, And there's no room for fanaticism, So seeing all these things, broad idea, then I got like attracted. Okay, thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you.